So, to give you a bit of context, the Cardinals Challenge is basically like an extended table topic. So Jenny will be picking from 3 categories, which will be a category of a person, a place, and a situation. And within each of these 3 categories, she'll pick out a particular thing corresponding to each of those things. And I'll write them up on the board, and then Jenny has within 5 and 7 minutes to produce a speech containing those 3 elements. Everyone happy? Happy? Great. First up, we'll go with a place. Okay. Do reveal.
Tunbridge Wells.
I'll write it in a second, and I'll give you a little more time to think about it. This is a type of person.
Type of person. A film star.
Film star, yeah. And then finally, the situation.
First look.
First look. Okay. So I'll just write it up and give you a little bit of time to think about it.
Oh my goodness me, I've been avoiding this for the last 20 years. Because it strikes me as being extraordinarily difficult. But a while ago I watched Vanessa. She's not here tonight, is she? And she's very new, and she's very young, and she's not even English. And she did it, didn't she? She came up here and did it, and I thought, why am I such a coward? Why do I think I can't do this? I didn't have to start yet, so what's the time stop?
No, I'll say. So, please join me in encouraging and welcoming Jenny to the Cardinals Challenge.
Well, as you probably guessed, I'm going to twist this like mad. That hasn't been thing to me, but now I'm going to stick to the rules. And I'm going to tell you a story which none of you, I guarantee, will believe. None of you. But I promise you, it's absolutely true. There was some tiny weeny bits aren't quite true. There is a suburb in Johannesburg, and I bet none of you know, called Tunbridge Wells. There really is. It's very tiny. And I suppose some English people, maybe from Tunbridge Wells, went out there and called it that. And this story takes place in this tiny little bit of downtown Johannesburg. It takes place about 30 years ago, and it's true. It's about my cousin. She's called Barbara, not Barbara Streisand. You won't have heard of her, but she is a sort of film star in South Africa. She's really famous for being an archer. I think that's the right word. It's somebody who shoots arrows and targets. And in her living room, in this little tiny suburb called Tunbridge Wells, she has a glass coffee table with 3 arrows in it, like that. Never seen that. It's really true. She's quite an unusual person. I'm going to tell you about her first love. Barbara, this very famous archer kind of film star. Doesn't take much to be a film star in the suburb. And this is all absolutely true. She's very tall. She's not really very pretty. She's got long blonde hair. And she's never had a boyfriend in her life. But she's not stupid. But my cousin is very stupid. He's called Joseph. And one day he walks along in this little town, Tunbridge Wells, little village thing, and he sees this woman lying on the pavement. And he thinks, oh my God, what's she doing lying on the pavement? So he picks her up, because he's quite kind, he's a bit thick, and he takes her home to my aunt, who's called Helga. And he says, Mum, I found this girl lying on the pavement. And you know what? I think she's that famous film star called Barbara something, the one who shoots arrows. And Helga says, well, she's not dead, is she? What have you brought her home for? And he says, I don't think she's dead. Anyway, they put her on the bed and they kind of revive her. And I know this sounds funny, but it's not really funny. She'd actually been raped. And Joseph, who had no chance of ever marrying in his life because he's so thick, quite kind but thick, nurses her with the help of his mother and brings her back to life. And you know what? It's like a fairy story, this. She is so grateful for not being dead that she agrees to marry my stupid cousin. And they live quite happily for about 15 years. They don't have any children. They have 7 dogs who swim in this swimming pool. They have sweet black servants who fish the dogs in the poo out of the swimming pool every day. I know because I stayed with them. It's a scary experience. I realised that Barbara, although this was her first love, she'd never been in love before. She didn't understand about marriage and love and sex and stuff like that. And Joseph certainly hadn't got a clue. She got rather fed up with him. Joseph was a kind of builder. He was thick, but he was a builder. He had a JCB. He had his own JCB. This is true. And one day, before I went to stay with him, because I saw it, he got the JCB. I know people in this country, because we lived near one in Maidenhead once, who thought you could dig a hole underneath your house. You have quite a big house in Jackson, because poor people come in big houses in the wrong part. Tunbridge Wells, bit for giant. He built this enormous cellar and put a billiard table down there. He didn't have any friends. And at one end, he had a pile of cigarettes up like this, because he smoked a lot. And he had a fridge at the other end with loads of beer. And every night, he would go down and play billiards and snooker, whatever, on his own for hours and hours and hours, smoking cigarettes and drinking beer. And that freed Barbara up to do her arrows and all the things she did, have a life without this dreadful man she married. And one day we were having a drink, and Barbara said to me, "You know what, Jenny? You know, just that trap door that goes down to Joseph's weird place where he plays snooker on his own. You know, I could just kick it shut one night and put a rock over it. And nobody ever knew he was down there, because he's so drunk, you know. Nobody really knows he exists anyway." And you know what? About 5 years later, we heard that he'd mysteriously disappeared, and that the house had caved in on itself, as it does when you get a JCB and dig a hole out of underneath the house. So that's my, oh gosh, I really got the green light. That is an absolutely true story, and to this day, she's never been had out for murder because nobody knows he's dead, but I'm absolutely 100% certain he's lying underneath what is now probably a tower block or something in Johannesburg, whatever they do, and has disappeared into a hole. That is my love story with this woman who was a sort of pathetic film rock star arrow person with a sweet little village with this tiny little suburb in Johannesburg.